Happy first day of training camp, everybody.
Let's go. We're back.
Yes, yes. The marathon begins.
Welcome into another episode of the PHNX Suns Podcast. I'm Lindsay. That's Saul. That's Gerald. That's Flex. And yes, we have officially entered basketball season because training camp has tipped off, and we got a lot of good stuff to talk about from day one of training camp. Obviously, we'll be discussing all the things throughout the rest of the week as well. But I think first and foremost, we should just hear from Eric Gordon on what he thought day one was like.
Today was good, very competitive. I mean, it was high energy, did a lot of playing, a lot of defensive drills, and we got after it. It wasn't like a sit-back practice, and but guys did get after it. They set it up to be very competitive, a lot of defensive drills, a lot of guys going one-on-one, doing progressions, and then did a lot of 5-on-5. So it was a lot of contact, and it was, very tough practice.
So my favorite thing about this is hearing a lot of 5-on-5, a lot of contact, because I know a lot of times for training camp, they try to ease into it, work up to some of that throughout the week. I love that they're just jumping in head first and going straight after it.
Yeah, I mean, Frank Vogel talked a lot about throwing a lot of different concepts at them. I know they did a bunch of defensive drills to kind of get some of his principles on board. And he mentioned that they're going to be taxing their legs quite a bit this week. So that's where the 5-on-5 comes in, getting everybody in shape. So I'm here for it.
I mean, they only got a week until the first preseason game, so you got to go all in right off the bat. We expected it to be competitive during training camp just because of the depth. And the guys that they brought in, more importantly, there's a lot of dudes out there that are going for the throat, and I think that's great.
Yeah, I'd do anything to see some of this stuff.
Yes.
It's like a high school camp.
Yes.
It's like a bunch of dogs in there fighting for minutes. I love it. This is music to my ears.
Did you get to see any snippets of practice at all?
No, not really. It looks like that's probably going to stay intact from era to era as we change coaches here. We came in and we saw guys broken off to different baskets, shooting free throws. Normally we would see them playing their shooting game or doing their shooting drills, whatever. So we'll see. It's only the first day, and they were probably preparing for another practice very soon. But hopefully we'll get to see more than free throws.
Are they doing 2 days?
Today, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Frank Vogel said that today was the 2-a-days and the rest of the week will just be one. He didn't want to fully leave the era of 2-a-days behind, but also didn't want to go too hard on the guys. But as far as the 5-on-5 goes, I want to know who's playing with who. That's the big question I have. And I don't think we'll get those answers. Even if you blatantly asked all of them who played with who, they probably wouldn't tell you anyway.
Yeah.
But that's what I mostly want to know, just because the conversation is still unanswered, even though yesterday Frank Vogel did tell us straight up that we're going to see a bunch of different lineups throughout, especially the first part of the season, so that they know what they're working with, they know what they like, and they've got different lineups in their back pocket to utilize whenever they need to come the postseason.
Yeah.
But I just want to know who's in that, who's playing on whose team.
I know. And I am glad that he said that yesterday about establishing look, we're going to try different lineups. We're going to try different rotations.
Right.
So even if it's a Kogi or KBD or Yuta who's starting day one, give it a few weeks. It might not be the same person by then. They're going to try different shit.
Yeah, absolutely. We also heard from Bradley Beal today, and he shared a little bit about what Frank Vogel shared with the team before camp tipped off.
Coach always, especially, this is Coach Frank's he's new here. We have a lot of new people here, new staff, new players as well. So, the first thing is establishing your basis as a coach and what your expectations are for us as a team. And it's, like I said, it's more or less being a physical, defensive-minded team. That's going to come first. We know what our abilities are on offense, but if we're not willing to guard and defend and get in the stance and hold each other accountable on that end, we're wasting our time. So to hear that message, I think that it was clear and loud through everybody today, and it's going to continue to be that way.
It's what I like to hear. At day one, hey, I give a shit how many points you can score. It's all about the defense. Let's get after it. And we've been talking about it. I don't think this team is going to have many problems trying to score. I think they're going to be just fine on that end. Defense is what ultimately is going to win them a championship. And so it makes sense from day one to be all about defense and really focused on that end of the court, because you got to get those rotations right. You got to get your chemistry locked down like as fast as possible and as quick as possible. So I'm excited, and it's not unexpected that Frank Vogel's focus would be on the defensive side of the ball, because that's been his repertoire.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited, man. You know what's intriguing is they don't have to be great on defense. They just got to be good. They don't got to be great. Offensively, they'll be great. If they're just good on defense, and by the way, we got defensive players. Like, it's not like you're grabbing a bunch of group players and saying, I'm trying to make you a defensive juggernaut. These are guys that have good abilities and traits to play defense. Book can play defense. Beal can too. So can KD. It's just about maximizing some of their abilities and making it all kind of make sense. But I love it. When's the last time we had a camp talking about defense?
Well, I mean, it's like one of those old like NBA cliches that like every team comes in like saying we're going to be good defensively and we're going to push the pace and stuff. But it is good to see how consistent he is with his reputation and what he's been telling us, because he also mentioned as part of that defense being physical. And that goes back to the whole scrappy as hell thing that he's been promising since day one. And he's brought up at several times different guys on the roster like Okogie, guys that get after it on that end. They get deflections. They play gritty. And so I think he's going to like a lot of some of these guys that he has, like Okogie, Goodwin, KBD, Nasir Little, all these defensive guys that are really going to get after it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think this was a good balance. I know people have joked like the offense, when you look at this team, like the number one thing that comes to mind is the offensive firepower. And then you teamed them up with a defensive minded coach. But honestly, that was probably the best plan of action for this team. Like, offensively, we're going to be sound and solid, but we want to get the best out of everybody defensively. And so we put in a coach who does exactly that thing. Like, this is the perfect combination of players to head coach. And then Frank Vogel also kind of was asked about his coaching staff and the guys he brought over and sort of how it's all sort of blended. And even with, what's his name? Now I'm blanking. Who stayed for Monty's staff?
Kevin Young.
Right? Kevin Young. Thank you. I was like, why can't I remember his name? That's all going really well. Like, the players are seemingly really vibing with the coaching staff from top to bottom. And then him and Kevin Young have found a good chemistry, and he's been enjoying getting to know him and working with him as well. So this is going to be a fun year, you guys.
I just wish we could see these. We've said it already, but again, that was probably my favorite part of some of these, media scrums, is getting in for that last 10 to 15 minutes of practice. And sometimes it was just guys shooting around, but you got to see a little insight. Like, I remember vividly the first year Monty was here, him working with DA at the basket for 15, 20, 30 minutes. And I'm not talking about just like going through some random ass drills. No, he was giving it to them. They were going at each other, and he was trying to get them to work on a few things defensively. Like, Monty was in full out sweat by the time they were done. And I was just like, that's cool. How many head coaches can do that? Not a lot in the NBA. And so those are the things that give you a little insight into who these guys are. And then, like, I've told the book story a million times about how you would go out, poor little Elie Okobo. He just poor little tut couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it.
And
that's unfair, though. That's unfair from the beginning.
I kind of want.
He tried, but then he was just getting bodied, and Booker was like, "Get the fuck out of here."
I want to correct myself. I don't want to say when's the last time we had a camp talking about defense. I kind of meant when's the last time we had a coach in camp that is like defense first. Like, this guy is defense. Monty had a really good defense, and we did a good job with that team. But I can't remember a time that the Suns hired a coach that is like defense first, like Frank is. So it's gonna be fun.
That's actually a really good question. I can't recall the last defensive minded head coach we've had.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, has that been a thing in the Valley? I feel like
it's never been. Yeah, we've always been offensive.
We live in the Mike D'Antoni,
let's keep it real
eras of offensive brilliance, but
maybe Cotton.
Yeah,
Cotton.
Cotton
so long ago.
I know.
It's been a minute. But no, you're right. And to that, like Josh Okogie made a joke at media day. He was like, I grew up with Tibbs and 75% of the practice was defense. So it'll be fun to familiarize myself with something like that again. Yeah. And it sounds like that's the sort of thing that they were kind of working on today. Okay, listen, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here because we haven't actually gotten a chance to see any of this in action, but I don't know. I'm super excited. And I know that it's normal for everyone to say all the right things around media day and into training camp and everything. But a while back, we did look at odds on the BetMGM Sportsbook app for the Suns potentially winning a championship this year. And I think they were like 5th or 6th on the list as far as odds go. How much money would you be willing to honestly put down for the Suns to win a championship this year on a futures bet?
$5,000.
Like, where are you feeling right now?
No, $5,000.
Okay. Oh, that's a legit number.
Yeah, $5,000.
I would put $100 on it. That's all I have.
If you'd have gone first, I would have been like, oh, wow.
Now it feels like now I'm getting laughed at.
I'm sorry.
Now I'm getting laughed at because big time over here is willing to spend everything.
Sorry,
he's just really confident in the Suns team, and I'm not mad at that.
Hey, I'm confident as well. But all I got is a hundo.
So I think I'm with you on that one. I think I would stick around $100 on that one, so that I could gamble throughout the season as well. Because if I put all 5 down, then we got to limit the amount I can sprinkle in throughout the season.
Can we do a group bet? Like everybody put $200 and we got $1,000 future bet on the Suns between the 5 of us? Can we do that?
I mean, like how people pull
that'll make us pop some bottles if they win.
I get what you're saying.
That's true.
Yo, Em, you want in?
For like lottery tickets and stuff all the time,
Em, you want in?
I'm going to be trying to call into the show and you guys are going to be drunk.
First of all, if we won the title, how do you know that wouldn't happen anyway?
Right.
Even if we didn't put a bet on it?
That's a fair point.
Oh, man.
But it would make us feel like we won.
It totally would.
We won.
Absolutely. Chris in the chat said they don't call him Flex for nothing. You got that right, Chris. All right, well, listen, if you guys want to put that futures bet down on the Phoenix Suns, I highly recommend it. You should definitely download the BetMGM Sportsbook app right now and sign up using the code PHNX, because when you sign up using that code, all you have to do is place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the BetMGM Sportsbook mobile app of at least $10, and you will receive $200 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. You can check out the show notes for full details, but take advantage of the money that BetMGM wants to give you. Again, that code is PHNX, and now you can listen to Shane talk about the display.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
If you have not signed up for Fubo TV yet, you are absolutely missing out. Fubo is the way to go. They've got over 140 live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. You can stream live TV from any device, and there's no contract, no cable, no hassle. All you have to do is just sign up and start watching. You can watch your favorite college football and the NFL with Fubo. Just go to FuboTV.com/PHNX to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. Don't miss out on that one. All right, so we talked a lot about defense. Mm-hmm. That was brought up quite a bit when we were talking with the guys after camp today. I was going to call it practice, but I guess it's technically camp still. Same difference, but whatever. Bradley Beal was asked how much he's looking forward to the opportunity to show just what he can do defensively.
How do you go into this situation knowing that you've got a second chance in life?
A lot, because I think that's one thing that we hold to ourselves as well. It's a big expectation we have on ourselves is to defend. We know that we can score, but we want to be an elite defensive team and showcase that we can do that. And, as crazy as it may sound, we won't have a choice. The other team is going to have guys out there that can put the ball in the hole. So we got to make sure that we're ready to go and strap our shoes on too.
So, yeah, he's looking forward to this. I know it's been a question that a lot of people have been asking throughout the offseason, and he knows that, and he recognizes it, but he's ready. He's prepared.
He's aware of the narratives, and like he said, playing defense is something that these guys in the league put on themselves. And he hasn't really gotten the opportunity to show that in Washington. And to be honest, he probably hasn't had the same level of motivation, because when you know that your season is probably capped at a certain point, and that point is like, will we make the playoffs or not?
Yeah.
It's harder to be locked in. But he's talked a lot about, they always use that phrase. Devin Booker's coined it and repeated it. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
But he's legitimately excited about being able to play with guys that push him the way that, Russell Westbrook and John Wall used to do back in the day. He hasn't had players of that caliber. He's never played on a team this talented. So to be able to lock in defensively with this whole new group of guys, whole new talent level, and a defensive minded coach, I think it's something he's going to take seriously.
Yeah, I think flow of the game matters on defense too.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you play on a bad team, you play your best defense at the beginning of the game. And then when you're down 25, it's like, okay, we know we can't come back. And so your defense takes a dip.
Mm-hmm.
When you're with a good team like the Suns, you're not going to be down 25 or 20 in many games. So I think it's all about situation. And defense, I mean, you'll be surprised how people play defense when the games matter and they're in every game. And then you're fighting for minutes because if I don't do this, I got 3 guys behind me that will.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the fun part of it. And I think last thing, James said something yesterday that was interesting. He talks about the 3x5, right? He said this is the best 3x5 or roster that he's put together. He actually went so far as to say something to the effect like, I've been waiting my whole time to build this team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool to hear, and it just brings competition across the board.
Yeah, it's going to be fun because I just think that even when you look at a guy like Devin, right, those questions have been asked about him too. And I think you put all these guys in the same space under Frank Vogel, they're going to play with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder defensively because of all of the narratives that have been around them. They understand that and they want to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how these guys are. But Bradley Beal also knows what it takes to establish good habits defensively for himself and as a team.
Biggest thing is communication. One, everybody being on the same page, understanding what the scheme is, concept is. Bigs are more or less like quarterbacks. So as long as they're loud, talking to us and us guards, me, Book, J.O., whoever it is, like we have to get into the ball and and get the rest of the defense set, knowing that, if we're up, we're active, the rest of the guys have no choice but to be in their stance and up and ready to go as well. So it's a collective effort. It's not going to be just we're relying on one guy to get stops or we're relying on bigs to protect our rim. We have to really lock into our own individual matchups as a man. And then obviously have the trust factor in your teammates to be there and be in your spots when necessary.
Defense by committee.
Yeah.
You love to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one man can't define 5, so you might as well do it by committee. It's just, again, like this is going to be a process, and I'm anxious to see how it's all going to unfold. I think they got some guys that could definitely match up across the league no matter what. And then there's some other guys that are going to be a little bit undersized or have some limitations depending on what the matchups are going to be. I always look at a guy like Bull. He's got a long way to go to prove that he can be a solid defender in this league because he has not shown that for most of his career. He can block a shot, sure, but can he guard on the perimeter? Nope. Right now he's a merry-go-round. So you got to make sure, or a turnstile, I should say, not merry-go-round because that comes back around. A turnstile. So you got to lock up, and I think that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to is seeing how Bull could play, seeing if they go small, who's playing the 3 if they go small. Everybody talks about Eric Gordon at the end of a game. Okay, what does that matchup look like? How does Eric Gordon or Book or Beal, who might be matched up on a small forward, how does that work out? Like there's so many little dynamics for each of the lineups that they could present that not only cause not concern, but you gotta figure it out on your end, but also could also be a matchup problem from other teams. And that's the other perspective that we're not really talking about. Sometimes bigs don't like matching up on somebody smaller than them because it just is irritating. If you put the ball on the ground, they're a little quicker than you, and it can be a pain in the ass. So you got to be careful about what you wish for because matchups do matter. So it goes both ways, and I'm excited to see what Vogel comes up with because I have a feeling we're going to see some unique shit because of the versatility of this lineup in a variety of different ways.
And he did mention, you know, obviously this week is all about ironing home defensive principles. He's talked a lot about day one of training camp in terms of transition defense being a point of emphasis, being physical on the glass. He also mentioned like some 2-on-2 coverage stuff so that the defense is not in rotation as much, which makes sense because if you've got a big like Nurkic that's maybe not as mobile as what the Suns have had recently with DA, it makes sense you don't want to be rotating all over, especially with a group of new guys that are still learning, you know, what spot do I need to be in? What's this guy's tendency in this situation? That those trust things that take time to develop. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. But he did also mention like schematically, we're going to do different things against different teams. Like we're going to adjust based on personnel that we're facing, based on the different lineups we're trotting out there. So I think he's approaching this. It's probably going to give him some gray hairs, but with a very open mind in terms of I will need to adjust and adapt as needed on both ends.
Yeah.
That's the part I love about Frank the most. That's what I'm excited to see. I don't think you're going to see, I used to drive me crazy with Monty, the little orange sheet. Like it was written in there and that's what he was going to do. Right. This guy is going to make adjustments on the fly. We're going to see different matchups for different personnel at all times. And I'm gonna hot take right now. Devin's going to play a lot of 3 this year.
Okay.
He is. Devin's going to play the 3, and he can do it. I think Devin can absolutely play the 3, defend the 3. You're going to see lineups where Devin is the 3 as much as you're going to see lineups with him at the point. I believe that. I could be wrong, but I'm looking forward to seeing that because Devin's dynamic, and he's a better defender than people think, and I think this year we're going to see that.
Nate in the chat asked us, where would the Suns have to rank in the league in terms of defense to win the chip? What do you guys think?
I think if they finished, honestly, in the upper half of the league, top 15,
that's it.
I think they'd be okay. If they get a top 10 defense, I think they win it easily. But I think top 15 is the baseline. Like, I don't think you can fall below that. Then you have some serious issues. So I think, that's kind of where I would put them.
Yeah, I mean, last year the Nuggets were 15th in defensive rating in the regular season.
There you go.
And then come playoff time, they turned it up and they were 4th. You know, obviously they didn't play the top ranked teams in the conference or whatever, but as long as you have the personnel and everybody's healthy, you can turn it on come playoff time. We've seen it from recent champions, and with as high powered as this offense has the potential of being, like I would say, league average. I think if you're top 10, that really bolsters your chances. But if you can probably get away with top 15 just because of the talent you have.
I agree. Saying exactly what Saul said. Top 15 during the regular season. If it's top 10, they're dangerous. And I also will say this. I think Frank is one of those guys that might hide some things during the regular season that may not be open to showing some stuff that he may have up his sleeves strictly for the playoffs. I know there's been coaches in the NBA who have done that, and I believe Frank is cut from that cloth. So I do think that he's going to have a scheme that he's going to be planning during the season that we may not see until the playoffs.
What I really hope more so from this group is that they have an energy about them on defense that, like, listen, like if you played at all, there's a certain, like, something happens defensively. You start hitting buckets on one end, you start turning up on the defensive end, and you start to like really enjoy the grind of playing defense because you feel like you're making some headway and you're making things happen, and it provides an extra little juice to you to spur you on the offensive side as well. Like, it can go both ways. And that's really what I'm looking at from this team is like, how juiced are they to play defense? Do they get hyped up playing defense? Do they look forward to playing defense more than they do offense? Because if they ever make that switch and that happens, game over. Game over. Yeah. Nobody's going to stand a chance, because if this team is energized playing defense and they're not really necessarily worrying about the offensive side because they know it's going to take care of itself, like, then you got a team that can win it all easily. And like, that's what I'm looking for as the season progresses, is like, how intense, how energized are they on the defensive end, or does it look like it's a chore and people are getting lost and it's just a little discombobulated? Like, I just don't feel like that's going to happen. I really feel like they're going to be locked in defensively at some point this season, and we're going to be talking about a team that's surprising a lot of people defensively, to be honest.
Yeah.
Everybody averaged 110 last year, right? In the whole NBA.
Just about, yeah.
No, I think it was. And it's the first time ever that all 30 teams averaged 110. So, like, is this something as small as saying, like, I played for a coach that he had a number. He said, this is the number for the whole team. When we come in the locker room, that's the number. Is it as simple as saying, hey, we're going to hold everybody under 100? That's the number. 100 points. You can hold them under 100, we're a good basketball team, right? So, I mean, I don't know if it's that simplistic, but I think that's how you get energy on defense. That's how you get everybody to buy in. As a team, you say, okay, we're not giving up 20-point quarters or 25-point quarters, right? Every quarter with defending less than 25, you're not going to do that all year. But those are the type of things that I think revs a team up and says, okay, we're all involved here. I come in for 3 minutes, I got to hold it down. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm sure that's probably a thing. It could vary from coach to coach. I know for Monty's perspective, if he held a team under 30 in a quarter, under 25, that's really good. If they get 30 or more, that's a bad defensive quarter. So
kind of had like a 5-point wiggle room there.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's relatively standard across the league, but you're right. I do think he'll have, game-to-game goals, targets for them, especially with the attention to detail he puts on that end of the floor.
Yeah. Okay, so we already are getting people in the chat, and this has been for a hot minute now, talking about how much they love Bradley Beal. And he hasn't even played for us one single minute, but just getting to hear him speak about anything and everything because he gives such thoughtful answers. Gerald, you're going to have to set this one up because I don't know if everybody else will be able to understand what question was being asked, but this was a cute little moment at practice, I guess you could say.
It was. So the reporter was trying to ask him.
Bull cute?
Yeah. Stop it. No.
Okay, sorry.
Not that cute, but still cute. Stop. Come on. We're going to need that in meme form.
Damn it.
You just memed
That's
yourself.
what you get.
Man. But the reporter was asking Bradley Beal, kind of getting at like, okay, you were on a situation in Washington where you weren't making the playoffs, where you guys didn't reach your goals in the playoffs. What's it like kind of getting this second chance to contend? But the way that he phrased it, and he knew it as soon as he said it, was how do you go into this situation knowing you've got a second shot at life? And this is what Bradley Beal had to say.
How do you go into this situation knowing that you've got a second chance in life? So to speak?
Oh, thanks for that. My career died. No, you're good. You're good. It's all love. It's all love. But no, honestly, in some ways, it did kind of rejuvenate my mental. When you step foot here, and and Kevin and Dev, like the first thing they say once you're considering everything is let's get in the gym. It's like okay, yeah, like that kind of changes everything. You don't hear that every day from your teammates, especially in the off season. But then, to understand, what Matt wants, his vision, James, Josh, and Coach Vogel, like they preach winning culture every single day. And you can see the winning habits of every player, every staff member in the gym every single day is towards working towards winning that NBA championship. And so in some ways, it's like I know what I signed up for, like you said, it's bittersweet being somewhere for so long, but you never get over that hump. And now I have that opportunity to seize that. And so for me, it's embracing being here. It's embracing the opportunity I have because not every player gets it. Not every player has the blessing to be that I'm in the situation I'm in to play with on an unbelievable team with an unbelievable staff, unbelievable resources. Like I have no complaints now, So it's up to me to continue to put in the work, trust myself, be confident in myself, and try to help this team win in any way I can.
Man, hey, I already got a nickname for him.
Yeah. What is that?
Cool Breeze.
Cool Breeze.
Yeah, I like that
one,
bro.
He is just cool as shit, man. I wish I was Bradley Beal.
He's
cool as shit.
And it's in a very thoughtful way too, because he obviously had a sense of humor about the guy's choice of phrasing, but then he proceeded to give a thoughtful 1 minute answer to what he was really getting at.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I played in Washington, I wasn't dying.
Right. Like my career died on me, damn. But no, it's been refreshing to hear him talk because at media day he was asked about his individual goals and he had said, I'm going to hold them close to the chest because I want I've vocalized them in the past, but here I want the team goals, winning a championship, to supersede all of that. So I'm going to keep my personal goals to myself. He's very aware of how fortunate he is to have this opportunity. And what's more, he's going to make the most of it because he hasn't had those chances recently in his career. So that's exciting as a Suns fan because we've talked about how Kevin Durant having a fully healthy season's going under the radar, or Devin Booker still being young enough to improve is going under the radar. Bradley Beal being a third option after being a first option for most of his career is definitely going under the radar.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of those things where I don't know if there's going to be a set 1, 2, 3 pecking order. I think it's going to be, it's your night, go for it. You're feeling it, go for it. Mm-hmm. And whatever the defense is giving them, they're going to be able to make them pay for it.
Get on the train right now.
Yeah. You know what? I've thought about this for a while, and I'm glad we could talk about this. I sometimes think the Suns, and I feel this, like the Suns learned something in 2021, the front office did, from the Milwaukee Bucks. And I can't help but think they're kind of stealing a little bit of the Milwaukee Bucks blueprint. Mm-hmm. And I say that because, you had Giannis and Middleton, and you got Book and KD. And it wasn't until they got Drew Holiday and took him out of that bad situation and put him in Milwaukee, and then made him the third guy, which we know he's better than the third guy. Mm-hmm. And then it happened. And it feels like Beal's about to be our Drew Holiday. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe not on a defensive end, but as far as impact. And so I look at that and I laugh, and I'm like, sometimes you got to go through stuff to get to the other side, and going through that Milwaukee thing might be why they built this team in this way. In a sense. So I'm very intrigued by that.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, like we've used the phrase of, or really the analogy of Shawshank, crawling through 500 yards of shit just to get to the other side. Yeah. I mean, if there was ever a shitty position, it would definitely be in Washington. Sorry, Wizards. It is what it is. And Bradley Beal, listen, when he got traded here, the number one thing that stood out the most was everybody and their mom that has ever known Bradley Beal vouched for him, the person, before they talked about the player, which speaks volumes because he's such a phenomenal player. And I've been saying since day one that Bradley Beal is slept on by just about everybody in the NBA right now for whatever reason, even though he did it in Washington. And he was a 30-point scorer 2 years in a row. Like, he's a legit basketball player, like one of the best in the league. And somehow, some way, he's barely thought of as a top 50 player. And it just blows my mind. Bradley Beal is going to drop buckets this year. He's going to be a problem for the entire league, because who are you going to match up on? And I think Bradley Beal does one thing specifically a little bit better than Devin Booker. I think Bradley Beal's post game is a little bit better than Devin Booker's, because he's a little bit more physical and he knows how to use his body a little bit more than Devin down on the block. Like, he's not doing a fadeaway. He's going to put his shoulder in your damn jaw, and you better take it and you better like it. Like, that's what I love it. That's what I love about him. Like, he's a dog out there, and I want to see that. Like, I want to see that aggressiveness from Bradley Beal. He's a matchup problem from every level of the court. And I know the other two guys are too, but Bradley Beal's just going to be, I'm telling you, it's just going to be so fucking exciting.
I'm going to be looking for that.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
I'm telling you,
I'm going to be looking for that, because I love Devin's post game.
Of all the film that I've been watching of Bradley Beal, that's the one thing that I keep going back to the most is, damn, like, whenever, even bigs, he will take a big down low and body him. And I'm just like, I love you. Cool Breeze, I love you.
I love you. Aww.
He's my sweet baby angel already.
I was going to say, he is your sweet baby angel.
He's my sweet baby angel already.
For sure.
We're going to need a leaderboard at this point.
Yep.
We probably should make one, but Bradley Beal is definitely at least in the top 5. You can't not.
Top 5? Yeah, no.
At least.
Top 3.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say that, but then I was like, well, let me just in case.
She doesn't like to commit.
I don't like to commit.
Commitment issue.
And I do, yes, very much so. Which is why I always ride the fence on this show. Okay, last thing from training camp, and then we have a bunch of super chats to get to. Frank Vogel was asked about his offensive philosophy with the big 3 on his team.
Not really. It just looks better when you have those guys out there. Quite frankly, we want to keep it simple. We really want to highlight attacking before the defense is set. Like obviously teams are going to try to throw bodies at those guys and be physical. And, if we can get them in the open court, playing with pace, but then in half court, playing with a lot of movement, rather than just, being stationary. I think, especially with Nurk being here, those guys' ability to throw the ball to Nurk and then pass and cut off of him, with his passing ability, I think should really, really free those guys up.
So this kind of confirmed a couple of things that we thought heading into training camp and are definitely going to be looking for moving forward. He mentioned pace. That's something we've heard multiple guys talk about. Ish was even talking about how in pickup they've been outletting to him just to get the ball up the court. I think that negates some of the concerns about who's going to be the true point guard, who's going to be the lead ball handler. Yeah. Well, if you get a defensive rebound and push, it doesn't really matter. It makes life easier on your superstars to get them out in transition. And then he used the other term, motion. They're going to have a lot more motion. He said it at media day, we're not going to come down and run pick and roll, post up, or ISO every time down, which is kind of how the Suns offense had devolved near the end. They really like being able to get the ball to Nurkic, have him be an offensive hub, and cut guys every which way around him and let him set them up in that way. So we're going to see different things from the offense. It's going to be a similar offense in the pick and roll attack, but they're going to have a lot more weapons up their sleeve, going from DA's passing to Nurkic's passing. And it's going to be fun to watch them kind of build this offense around those three guys, especially with how interchangeable they are.
I hope we see the level of passing that I think we're going to see. I want that ball. Again, when we go back to I think it was the Mavericks series 2 years ago, game 1 or 2. And the Suns came down the court. Ball didn't touch the floor not once. Yeah. And that ball rotated twice, or actually 3 times, to each side. And then we got an easy layup and a foul. I think DA got it. It was probably the most beautiful possession I've ever seen in basketball. Yeah. And I hope we get to see more of that with this group. Mm-hmm. I think we have the shooters and the basketball IQ to really execute that. So I'm excited for that aspect of this. The offense, obviously, we're all looking forward to that. I think they're going to drop a lot of buckets, obviously. But Nurk being a part of this and being a better passer than DA, 1,000,000% is going to elevate everybody else, create easier passing lanes. And you really got to account for that when you're moving around. That's what makes the Nuggets so freaking good, because you have to account for Jokic's passing, because he's one of the best passers in NBA history for a big. Like, Nurk isn't quite that level, but he's very, very good at passing. So I'm excited for that.
Well, I thought we had already agreed yesterday as point Nurk, right?
Yeah. Everybody else, it's 1-4 high. Everybody else just line up along the baseline. Nurk at the top. Let's go.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, no, I love it. I've been going back and looking at some more tape with Nurk with Portland, especially with Dame and CJ and those guys flying up and down the court. And it's exciting. Yeah, everything I'm hearing from Frank is like gold right now. Now we just got to bring it to life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But if they can play defense and play fast and have that pace that we want, this is gonna be a hell of a task for some people to deal with. So it's gonna be fun.
All right, let's look to the chat for a little bit here. First thing first, Ted said, "Sweet BB Angel." When we talk about Bradley Beal, we can already give that to him. Sweet BB Angel is Bradley Beal, 100%. I love that comment. All right, so a couple of super chats here. Big Vernon, thank you so much for yours. Said Suns starting lineup: Book, Beal, KD, Keita Bates-Diop, and Nurk. I still think Josh Okogie will start at the beginning of the season, but I do think KBD could take that spot at some point in time.
Yeah, I think it's Okogie. He told a funny story yesterday about the first time he met Frank Vogel in an elevator randomly in Chicago, and he didn't play for Vogel. He didn't really know him. They just got on the elevator, and Vogel was like, "Love your game. You're tough," and like got off the elevator. Yeah. I think Okogie is the exact type of guy he would look for in a fifth starter, but we don't know. We'll see. There's still plenty of preseason games before then.
So I think opening night, it's Josh Okogie. Who do you think?
I think it's going to be KBD.
Gerald?
Okogie.
Flex?
KBD.
Okay, 2-2. Guess we'll find out. Well, should we put a bet down on that?
I'm down.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
I'm always down to bet.
When Lindsay
We'll come back
become
to
like
this
this
a little
gambling.
Play the gambling help.
We'll come back to this later.
Probably 1-800 next step.
There we go.
All right. Killer Rex sent us one. Thank you so much. Appreciate your super chat. Said, this is probably a dumb question, but is there any plausible scenario where the Suns could trade for Miles Turner? They'd be a lock for the finals, and Frank coached him at Indiana.
So looking at contracts, Miles Turner makes $21 million. Nurkic is like just under 17. So if you combined his salary with one of the vet minimums, I think you might be close enough. I'd have to do the math, and it would depend on which guy. But I don't know if I see this happening unless things go really poorly for the Suns with Nurk. If he gets injured or if the defense just isn't working out, whatever. I think they really are like genuinely high on his fit here. And I think for the Pacers, like something would have to go poorly for them. They look like a team that will threaten for a playoff spot. And Turner had a really good year last year. So
yeah, I agree.
All right. Vic sent us one. Thank you, Vic. Appreciate you. Said, I have not heard anything about the center, Udoka Azubuike. Could he and Keon be the ones that are waived? So a lot of people were asking about Damian Lee and then the fact that he's injured right now, and then who those two guys that will inevitably have to be cut, who those could be.
So Udoka won't be cut unless they just really don't like him, because he's on a two-way contract. So he's not part of the cuts that need to happen. Yeah. You get 3 extra two-way slots. The Suns have 2 of those filled with Udoka and Saben Lee. So those 2 guys are probably going to stick around no matter what. Keon seems like a prime candidate here just because he's younger. He's a little more raw. This team needs more established players at this point. It's probably looking like Keon and Ish, but it could be Chimetzi. Damian Lee, unfortunately, could be involved in that conversation now that he's gotten hurt. And we don't have an update on him yet. Like we said yesterday, we got kind of a non-update update. Like he's out for a while. Like that's
I heard a while.
Yeah.
Like Keon Johnson, though, like I do think that they're going to take their time before they have to make a cut. Like, you know, in the words of ODB, ooh, baby, I like it raw. Like, it's okay. I like Keon Johnson. Like, let's give him a chance.
The look on Emma's face right now is quite literally everybody.
Ooh, baby, I like it raw.
ODB, that's Lil Wu-Tang. Come on now.
I
know what it is.
Why?
I know what it is, but you...
What's wrong with that?
I like it raw.
That's it. Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Come on now. Shimmy, y'all, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yeah.
No, I know the reference.
Yeah,
we understand the
that.
reference.
We get that. We're just trying to figure out why.
I mean, it's okay. I'm just saying, I'm using a music lyric into what we're talking about, and I thought that was applicable because you just said like he's a little bit raw.
Don't even play like you didn't know what she was doing.
I wanted to use that lyric. That's all I was doing.
How long have you had that in your back pocket?
As soon as you said raw, I was like ready to go.
Anyway.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
I want to ask you, like, okay, if Damian Lee's injury is as bad as it sounds, it does. I had a conversation yesterday. It doesn't sound like it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. With that said, do you really look at Keon now and say, hey, man, this kid's young?
I have 2 questions about this. Doesn't Damian Lee have a player option in his second year? Does he?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so you got to play that into this as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then second, if he's out for a really long time, can you apply for like a hardship thing and just like keep one of these guys around for that?
You could. I don't think this injury is season ending.
Okay.
And normally hardship has got to be season ending.
Right.
I don't think we're that far yet. But if he's gonna miss most of the season, and you got to remember, how about this? And Saul, you can speak on this. When you tear your meniscus, it's a cartilage issue. Like Damian is a guy that might want to play in the NBA another 5, 6, 7 years because he's not a star. He's a guy that may be getting contract year to year. And so he'll probably on the side of caution with this and say, let's just fix it the right way so that I'm available to play in 3, 4 years. If you snip your meniscus,
right?
I mean,
you're back quicker, but
long term, you're in trouble.
Right.
So I don't know. This is getting weird.
I mean, there could be a scenario where he ends up getting cut, you know, and that's, I mean, it would be unfortunate because I know we all like Damian Lee, like he's a solid contributor in the locker room, But, you know, at this point, because you're so stretched and you're so packed on the roster, you know, at some point you might say you're better off just going with what you know is available at the moment, and maybe for the next 2, 3, 4 months. In that case, I could see them maybe possibly moving on from Damian Lee. It would be extremely unfortunate to lose your job because of injury.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, we're not advocating for that at all. Initially, I think we were all in agreement that it was probably going to be Ish and Keon that got cut. But because of this, I think one of these two guys might end up being saved because of that. And it's really, I mean, it's
well,
really
technically, you also still have one more open two-way, right?
Two-way, yeah.
You
So-
Damian, I don't think Damian qualifies. For
No,
that.
not for Damian,
okay.
but for like Keon or something,
for Keon,
or
yeah.
Ish, if that happens. Like, at least I don't know that they could extend the offer of like, hey, if you don't have anything else around the league who's willing to take you on, we'll still keep you on a two-way though.
I mean, that feasible,
Yeah,
which would be
technically.
nice. But again, that's all going to be predicated on how Keon Johnson plays. Again, I don't know if the Suns really know totally what Keon Johnson's going to be able to provide. So they're going to take a look. And listen, Ish and Keon, that's probably the two guys that you're going to want to watch the most in preseason to see how they perform, because they're literally playing for their NBA lives right now.
Yeah.
And you know, that's part of the business.
Okay, so True Tactive sent us a super chat. First one ever. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you. Said, do you think Bobo gets cut? Unlikely, right?
Yeah,
I
very
don't
unlikely.
think that Bobo
I don't
would
think
get
Bobo's
cut,
getting cut at all.
personally.
Not
He's got
getting
too
cut.
much potential, and that potential is just too appealing at the moment.
Agreed.
Somebody else in the chat asked us, I'm pretty sure I saw, they said, do you think the starting five for preseason will be the starting five for regular season?
No.
I don't think so, no.
No.
I would kind of be surprised. We probably won't see a ton of like the big three in preseason, I would guess.
It's
A little bit,
it's
but not a
little
ton.
Bit, yeah, it's
We'll
only
see a
5
little bit because they
games.
They'll get him some reps and then probably rest him for most second halves or something
Yeah.
like that.
15 minutes probably is where you want to get those guys.
Okay, James Johnson sent us a super chat, said, league sleeping on us, 3 amazing superstars with depth and a center that will actually provide ball screens, hip outs, etc. Bring on the Larry.
I don't know if they're sleeping on us necessarily, because we do have a hell of a lot of nationally televised games. So that's for a reason, because we're an appealing watch. Hey, listen, one of the things about us is kind of like what the history of the Lakers has been. People are going to tune in because they want to see if it's going to succeed or if it's going to be an epic dumpster fire. And it's not going to be anything in between. Like, so people are going to watch the Phoenix Suns this year. They're going to have high ratings because they are a very appealing draw. Devin Booker, KD, now you add Brad Beal, Bol even. It sounds funny to say some guy that's probably going to be 10th, 11th, 12th, possibly off the bench being an appeal, but people love Bol.
People love Bol.
Yuta, same thing. Going to be a huge following overseas to watch Yuta play at any spare minute that he can get. So this is a very attractive team from an NBA perspective, and they're going to pump a lot of money into making sure people are watching the Phoenix Suns this year. So I don't think that they're being overlooked this year. I don't think we can use that as a slept-on excuse this time around, because I assure you that is not the case.
I do think, I agree with you. I think the NBA is pushing very hard for the Suns to be one of their premier teams. I think there are a lot of pundits that doubt this team as a legitimate title contender still, though.
See, that's where I'm at. I think the NBA wants us the same thing. NBA wants us to be a darling, but I don't think
'Cause we
everyone
are.
else wants us to be a darling.
I don't know if they want it or not. I just think that on the analysis side of things, I think people have us in the tier just below like Denver, Milwaukee, Boston right now.
That's comedy, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. You said a word just a minute ago, and now I just went blank.
Darling?
Darling. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely do not feel like we are darlings by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
I think we are viewed at with
Villains.
a villainous kind of perspective because of Book and KD alone.
Okay, I'll give you those two because I'm like, the more we start getting to know these guys,
And Grayson.
they are darlings.
And you
though.
add Grayson. You add those three guys. Like, and one of these things, obviously not like the other ones. I know this. But Book has a rep across across some NBA circles. There are a lot of people that do not like Devin Booker. We know this. It's stupid. It's absolutely foolish, but it is the case. Same thing with KD because of, he should just stop being on Twitter and all these stupid ass takes, right? And then Grayson for the obvious history that he has. So I think those three alone will bring a villainous kind of perspective to us. And then they'll be enlightened by Bradley Beal and Yuta and all the sweet baby Bobos out there.
I mean, listen, I'm not gonna lie. We do have a lot of darlings on this team. We've got a lot of villains, if you will.
Dogs on this team too.
But they're also darlings.
Yep.
I think they're sweet.
I think they're perceived as villains, but they're really good dudes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, last one, and then we'll move on for right now. Jacob, thank you for your super chat. Appreciate you. They said, we built like the Warriors with KD, Steph, and Clay. Now Book and Beal, and a ton of really good professionals that want to win.
Yeah,
that's the key right there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of really good professionals. And I think we have some guys that are really, they're poised to take advantage of an opportunity that a lot of them have not really had in their careers before. Even Eric Gordon, never been to an NBA Finals, came close, Western Conference Finals against the Warriors a few years back, but couldn't get over that hump. You're talking about Yuta, who's not really in Brooklyn and on the East Coast. Maybe they know who Yuta is. The whole rest of the world might find out who Yuta is now because of all these national televised games. Yeah. If Bol can put it together and finally figure it all out at the same time and become a lot more consistent and contribute to a contending team. Bol, we talked so much in the last 5 years about DA. And if he could ever be that dude, we'd be right here. Guess what, people? It's the same thing with Bol. Yeah. If Bol puts it all together, if Bol somehow figures it out, I mean, this is true. If he somehow figured it out, then we would be such an elite team because we have one of the freakiest basketball players of all time. And I mean that on the basketball court, people. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be, this is a fun ass team to watch.
It is.
What Nurk said yesterday had me dying.
Bol's our point guard.
Yeah. It's a
if
guard.
it's not Nurk, it's Bol.
He's a guard. I mean, he meant that, man. He wasn't playing. He sat there and stared everybody in their face and said, bro, I don't view him as a center. He ain't a center. He ain't a big. He's a guard. That's amazing. And the fact that he's telling the truth makes it even more amazing. It's like, how is that human being able to do that? Yeah. He's that big with guard skills, can shoot. And another thing is, I mean, DA had hype. Bro, the hype around Bol coming out of high school and college, it was insane. This kid, the first game that dude comes out and hits 3 threes.
Everybody's losing their mind.
Next show, people gonna lose their mind. I'm telling our next show, people gonna be in the chat talking about Bol got to start.
The bowler coaster.
I was gonna say that's why the bowler coaster exists. It absolutely does. Code in the chat said, "I blame Espo for the national hate of the Suns." Code, you're throwing so much shade at Espo when he's not even here. So it's a good thing Espo brought his Shady Rays on vacation so that he didn't have to hear all that slander. Code, come on now. But Espo is on vacation, for everybody asking. He is out rocking his Shady Rays, having a great time with the wife and the daughter. But listen, if you have not checked out Shady Rays, make sure you check them out because Shady Rays has gear that is built to last. We are talking about premium polarized sunglasses, and right now, exclusively for you, they're giving out their best deal of the season. Just go to shadyrays.com, use code PHNX for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Also, if you are looking for a great place to grab dinner tonight or later this week, highly recommend our friends over at the Spaghetti Shack. They are ASU alum owned and operated. We love that, no matter what Saul says. They serve a menu starring spaghetti, meatball, balls, garlic bread, and a few other fan favorites. I sure did. After so much shading, you would just one hand motion.
I didn't even say anything.
I know, but I was ready for you if you were.
She was like, I don't care.
I said, not today, Saul, not today. But the Spaghetti Shack has delicious food. So check them out. Enjoy delicious spaghetti, meatballs, and so much more at one of their 4 Arizona locations. To learn more or to find a location near you, check out thespaghettishack.com. All right, guys, I know we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our, I don't know if I should say, predictions, but our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a little bit thrown out of whack with our predictions. But I think we got a going down the list of teams that could potentially be a threat to the Phoenix Suns. But now we're back on track since the whole trade has kind of settled. And we're going to talk about the Warriors today. And to do that, we are going to welcome in our guest, CJ Holmes, Warriors writer for the San Francisco Chronicle, who joined us earlier this week to share their insight.
And now joining us, the writer for the Warriors at the San Francisco Chronicle, and also the greatest Auburn Tiger I've ever met, CJ Holmes. What's up, dog?
He's got it on.
What's up, y'all? Thanks for having me, man. Good to see my family out in Phoenix.
Hell yeah. Good to see you too, man. Let's start with this. Chris Paul. We know that he's with the Warriors, at least for now. I don't know. Something else might happen. We'll see. We'll get to that in a little bit. But your initial reactions to Chris Paul coming to the Warriors, and how do you think he's going to fit into their system?
I think it's a good fit if managed properly, if that makes sense. Chris Paul's one of the best point guards to ever do it. And one of the Warriors' biggest issues last season was managing that second unit, staying competitive when Stephen Curry had to come off the floor. Yeah, they got good minutes from Jordan Poole in spurts, but that inconsistency from him really crippled that unit at times. Warriors would build the lead, second unit would come in, and all of a sudden that lead would evaporate. So the whole theory in my mind with Paul is that, assuming that he comes off the bench, that stuff is still kind of up in the air. The guy has never came off the bench in any game he's ever played in his career. But I do think on this Warriors team, he's a better fit coming off the bench. The Warriors had the best starting five in the NBA last season, by advanced metrics, right? That's not the issue. The issue is those reserves. So you can get a guy like Paul who can come in, lead these reserves, get guys like Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, easy shots. In theory, the Warriors become a better team. So from that standpoint, I think it's a good fit. If he does wind up starting, we'll see how that plays out. I know you said we'll get into it later, but who are you going to take off the floor in that situation? Is it Andrew Wiggins, one of your best perimeter defenders? Is it Kevon Looney, your best big? Who knows? Either way, it would put the Warriors at a disadvantage from either a rebounding standpoint or a size defensive standpoint. We'll see how it plays out, but I do think the Chris Paul addition is a good fit, assuming that he comes off the bench.
Just to be clear, okay, I need to go back to this. All right. I know Chris Paul, he'll say all the right things, but do you truly believe he's going to accept a bench role?
I don't know. I remember when we talked to him for the first time out in Vegas, a few reporters floated that, those loaded questions his way. Chris, are you willing to accept the bench role? Chris promptly responded that, are you the coach? Right. And I don't know, just from my perspective, it seems like Chris, guys with these egos, right? It's what makes them great, right? It's what makes Chris great, that belief in self. But a guy in his situation, 38 years old, has played in less and less games over the past 3 seasons, is now entering, probably one of his last best chances to win a championship. You think the answer to that question would be, I'm willing to do whatever the coaching staff asks, right? However, that's not how he responded to that question. He did state that a lot of that stuff will be ironed out during training camp, and camp set to begin this Tuesday.
AKA, I ain't letting that shit happen.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But from, most people who are looking at this situation, it comes across as, or their perspective seems to be that the Warriors become a better team as long as, a little asterisk, as long as Chris Paul is willing to accept a reduced role. And it makes more sense. It just makes more sense, at least from my perspective.
That shit sounds like, I'm sorry to bogart this real quick, but that shit sounds like when my sister would be like, hey, mom said we can't have any ice cream today. I'm like, I'll wait and see what dad says. You know what I mean? Like, oh boy.
CJ, from your perspective, if things go south, if Chris Paul doesn't get the starting role that he wants and it doesn't go well, we've heard the Drew Holiday rumors. Is that a sensible swap in your mind? What do you think about that possibility, or is it too soon to be looking ahead that far?
Holiday is a perfect pick. He's like a perfect fit to what the Warriors want to do. And if this Damian Lillard deal went down earlier in the offseason, perhaps we're having a different conversation right now. But as it stands right now, bringing in Drew Holiday just doesn't make much sense from the Warriors, more so from a financial standpoint. One of the biggest factors in trading for Paul, offloading a Jordan Poole, is to offload Poole's contract. You bring in Paul. I think he's guaranteed around like $30 million or something in that range this season. Then next season, you can get him off the books. You can waive him without any penalty. If you bring in a guy like Drew Holiday, he has a team option he has a player option, for like $37 million next season. And all of a sudden that's on the Warriors books, and that's counterproductive to what they're trying to accomplish to make sure they duck under the NBA's second tax apron. So although I believe that Holiday on paper is a better fit, especially considering the fact that he's 5 years younger than Paul. He's a better all-around player, I would say, at this point in his career. And he remains one of the premier perimeter defenders in the league. I do think that he would be a better fit for the Warriors on paper. However, they've already committed to Paul. They have, coaches, execs, they've went on record, propping this guy up, saying how good of a fit he's going to be with the Warriors in the system. And to go back on all of that and to flip him just days before the start of training camp, or, perhaps maybe something happens a little further down the line, it just doesn't make much sense to me at this point.
Probably going to want to flip them before the playoffs, but that's just my opinion. Real quick, Klay Thompson, a little bit of ups and downs. It looked like he rebounded, more significantly last year, obviously getting more into a groove. What are your expectations on him? And really overall with this Warriors team, obviously if you look at the last 8 years, a lot of wear and tear on those bodies, playoff performances and such. How worried are you that they can still maintain that Warrior level of championship level play for the long haul? Because it did seem like last year they kind of tailed off towards the end of the season, and they just didn't have it, especially in that second round series against the Lakers.
Well, the new NBA rules designed to deter load management certainly doesn't help. It feels like that rule is more so targeted at teams like the Warriors more than most. So how they manage their players in order to keep guys healthy will be very, very key for them throughout the season. There won't be a lot of opportunities for rest for those guys. So that's just something that Rick Celebrini and the training staff, they're going to have to figure that out and find the best way to keep these guys healthy for the long haul. In terms of Klay Thompson specifically, it's been nothing but good things. I've been hearing nothing but good things about Thompson his offseason. This is a guy who I remember last year in Japan, they held him out of the first 2 preseason games. Matter of fact, I don't even think he played until late in the preseason. He said he had a mental block that prevented him from playing pickup basketball over the summer, coming off of those 2 devastating injuries. Throughout the year, he wasn't even cleared to play in back-to-backs until later in the year. But despite all of that, Klay Thompson led the NBA in three-point makes last season with 301. He had one of the best Januaries he ever had in his career. And there were times last year, multiple 40-point games. I think he even went for 50 once. So Klay Thompson still has plenty left in the tank. And considering that he's coming off of an offseason where he has been able to work out in full force, where he has been able to play those pickup games, to me, that's all good vibes for him coming into this year. It's a big year for Klay. It's a contract year. And General Manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. has expressed his interest in, being able to bring Klay Thompson back, find a way to extend him. And those negotiations are reportedly, ongoing at this very moment. So it's a big year for Klay. I think all things are pointing towards a more consistent year for Klay. And because Klay hasn't made an all-NBA team or an all-star team in the last 3 seasons, he isn't classified as a star player under those new rules designed to deter load management. So Klay will have more opportunities to rest more so than a Stephen Curry, than a Chris Paul, than a Draymond Green, than an Andrew Wiggins. So all the factors are pointing to a strong season for Klay. It'd be interesting to see if he can take advantage of it.
I can't wait to see Klay slap Steph on the butt and say, "Hey, get out there. Get out there. I'm going to sit right here. You get out there."
CJ, so the big 3 still intact, but obviously the Warriors made a lot of changes to the rest of the roster. We've already talked about Chris Paul, but there's another former Sun on the Warriors, Dario Saric. He joins Rudy Gay, Corey Joseph. How do you see some of the new guys fitting in on this team?
Well, in terms of, the Warriors are only expected to carry 14 players on the 15-man roster this season. They've recently signed Rudy Gay and Rodney Magruder to non-guaranteed deals. We'll see how that plays out. If that last spot were to go to one of those two guys, I would more so lean in the direction of Gay, simply because that gives the Warriors more depth, more true depth at the three than they've had in recent seasons. Takes a little bit of the pressure off Andrew Wiggins, in my opinion. In terms of Dario Saric, it's another guy who's a perfect fit on paper. He's a respectable three-point shooter, high basketball IQ. He's a guy that you can see fitting into the Warriors system and that read and react system. He's a smart passer. And, last season in Oklahoma City, he was a lot better than he got credit for. I think he dealt with some injuries. Please correct me on that if I'm wrong. But, this is a guy that, when he's on the court, he's usually been pretty good when healthy. And now he's going into, arguably the best situation schematically he's been in since his time in Phoenix. So, it's in terms of depth, you lose Jordan Poole this offseason, you lose Dante DiVincenzo. That opens up more minutes potentially for a Moses Moody to have more of a consistent role than he's had in the past. Moody's minutes have always fluctuated, but when he's been on the court, he's been pretty efficient. Now you add in a guy like Chris Paul to get him easy shots, and maybe that can help him take that third-year leap. But I think no one on this Warriors roster is expected to see the most improvement. It's Jonathan Kuminga, right? Jonathan Kuminga. This is a guy who's shown flashes throughout his first 2 years in the NBA, but hasn't really put it all together. This is another guy that the coaches are raving about, that he's had a strong offseason. You think about that 60-point game that he had at the Jordan Crawford Pro-Am. And then you got a guy like Chris Paul coming in. Chris Paul loves to throw that lob pass, and when it comes to lob threats on the Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga is as dangerous as it gets. One of the most athletic guys in the league. So when you look at this Warriors roster, they have the pieces. The starting five is intact. Not a lot of question marks with those guys. There are question marks on the bench. The team is hoping that Kuminga and Moody can take that leap. Dario Saric is expected to fit in on paper, but will he actually? They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do with that 14th roster spot. And then you got the rookies, Brandon Pajemski and Trace Jackson Davis. Question marks as well. Pajemski had struggled in summer league play, at least in terms of shooting the ball. We'll see this preseason if that was more of a blip, or if he's a guy that's going to be able to help this team this year, or will he see more time in the G League with Santa Cruz? I do know that the Warriors are very excited about Trace Jackson Davis out of Indiana, who they acquired in the second round on draft night. I watched him out at Summer League. I loved what I saw from him. He didn't play until the final two games, but I loved what I saw from him. More athletic than he gets credit for. Great in pick and roll, and that bodes well considering Chris Paul is now on this team. And we're just going to have to see how it all fits together.
I like how you laughed after that. Just to kind of summarize it up, the Warriors still a top 4 team in the West. I don't think that's disputable. Like that's warranted. But what do you think? What would you predict would happen with them this year?
I think top 4, top 3 is very realistic for this team. Last year, they were arguably the best team in the league at home. Their issue was winning on the road. And that was their biggest issue, was winning on the road. And I just don't envision this Warriors team being as bad away from Chase Center as they were last year. If they won, just check my math on this, but if they went 500 on the road last season, they would have been a top 3 seed, top 3-4 seed. So they clean that up. Clean up that second unit stuff. Hopefully Chris Paul is able to accept and thrive in whatever role he's given. And if everything fits together the way it should, the way coaches hope it should, then the Warriors will be contending for a championship this year.
Suns Warriors playoff series. Who's winning and how many games?
Ooh. Well, we'll get a little preview on opening night.
Yeah.
We'll get a little preview on opening night at Chase Center. Kevin Durant's first game in San Francisco since he signed with Brooklyn all those years ago. It's going to be exciting. The Suns are doing a lot of exciting things on their roster with the new ownership, and bringing in a Bradley Beal to play alongside Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So, that's another team on paper that looks really dangerous. And the Suns also did a great job this offseason with limited money, being able to fill out the rest of that roster. And I know they got a little bit more depth by shipping out DeAndre Ayton, bringing in Nurkic, and a few more other pieces to help fill out the back end of the roster. It should be interesting. With all that said, I feel like the Warriors have more chemistry. Right? No. The Suns have plenty of chemistry, by the time the playoffs roll around. But, Curry and the gang aren't getting any younger. They'll probably be as motivated this season as they've been, entering any other season. I'm going with the Warriors in 7.
All right, Warriors in 7. Right. Okay, we put him on the spot. To be fair,
I was about to say certified bucket, but he kind of missed right there at the end, so we'll just let it go. That's CJ Holmes. You can follow him on Twitter at CJ Holmes 22. It's forever Twitter. It's not X. I don't give a shit about X. So CJ, thank you so much for joining us, bro.
Hey, thanks for having me. Love y'all. I'll see you guys soon. See you opening night.
Yeah, he'll be out there.
I'll be out there, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
All right, welcome back, guys. We had to kick Saul and Gerald out, so it's just Flex and I closing it out for you. But shout out to CJ for joining us, even though we're officially kicking him outside of the inner circle for picking Warriors in 7, which I don't blame him. But he's no longer inside the inner circle.
He's a good hope. I mean, good guess, but I didn't like that Warriors in 7. So,
but I don't blame him, because if the roles were reversed, I would have picked Suns for sure. But if you want to join in on Circle K's inner circle, we highly recommend you do that, because when you join their inner circle, not only are you going to save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, but you also get every 6th free on a selection of Circle K products like pizza, coffee, ice cold fountain drinks, and a whole bunch of other perks as well. So to join Inner Circle today, all you have to do is download the Circle K app. It is absolutely free. Terms and conditions do apply at participating location. Visit CircleK.com for all the details. And of course, become a PHNX Suns diehard. Listen, I know I talked about Christmas yesterday, and y'all were saying it was way too early, but it's really not. I promise you it's going to be here before you know it. And gifting somebody a PHNX diehard membership is a really solid gift, not only just because of all of the perks that come with it, but because it's an easy gift to give. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is go to gophnx.com, type in some stuff, and bam, you're done.
That's right
so
down my
simple.
alley. That's right down my alley.
Exactly.
I said
mine
I just
too.
send money.
Exactly.
So can I do
now
that?
You can just send a PHNX diehard.
Oh, I'm sending 20 of those and keep it moving.
It's super simple. Again, that's gophnx.com you can check out all the details and learn about all the perks and everything. All right, we will round out this, just Flex, you and I talking about the Warriors here, and a couple things we did learn about them from training camp yesterday. Obviously, we know Draymond Green did sprain his ankle.
Yep.
But it seems like he is feeling good. He didn't walk into media day with any crutches or a boot, and not a big limp from what's been reported. But in the event that he does miss time, that could potentially open a starting spot for one Chris Paul that they don't have to quite figure out before they come to town to play the Phoenix Suns. Wait, is that home or is that away?
That's in Golden State.
It is. You're right. That's right.
It's in Golden State.
So before we go to their place to play Golden State to open the season.
I think he's going to miss the first preseason game, and it's going to be a nice little test for them to experiment. Now, I think they're going to go with Chris in the starting lineup. Chris, Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, and Looney is probably going to be the starting lineup. I'm intrigued, though. I thought they might go Kuminga instead. But I think it's a nice trial run to give CP a shot and see how that looks. And who knows, ankle injuries linger. So are we going to get an opening night with Chris Paul in the starting lineup in the Bay versus, this is going to be fun.
It'll be interesting. But if that doesn't happen, obviously Chris Paul was asked if he would be comfortable coming off the bench yesterday at media day. He did kind of joke no, which is not a surprise. Of course, he doesn't want to come off the bench.
Yeah.
But then he did follow up saying, quote, I actually had an opportunity in 2008 to come off the bench for the Olympic team. That went pretty well. I think anybody who knows me knows I'm all about winning. Whatever I can do to help our team win. I know Coach and us, we are going to talk about it and see what it looks like. Still remains to be seen what that's going to look like.
How much of a flex is that, though?
I mean, it is.
Like he's like, no, I'm not comfortable. The last time I did it, it was like the greatest team on basketball on earth, right? So the dream team. I just came off the bench for them.
It's like no big deal.
No big deal.
You think you're on that level?
Right.
Is that low-key
Exactly.
Asking, like, you really think you're on that level?
That's what I feel when I hear that. It's like, nah, you know.
Oh,
so yeah, CP. I didn't expect anything else from him though, because he's so competitive. I mean, Chris still thinks he's, and rightfully so, he still thinks he's the best point guard in basketball. He might be. He's probably the last of a dying breed. I mean, are there any real point guards like Chris in the NBA anymore? I mean, he's probably the last one.
Not a lot.
So, yeah, CP's got some dog in him. And if you let him start, here's a scary thing. You ready for this? What if they let him start and it's good? And it's like really dynamic. And it's, you know, then, yeah, they may have a problem. You going to ask Dre to come off the bench?
I mean, they had to have had a plan of some sort.
Of course, yeah.
Whether they want to say that out loud or not, or whoever is coming off the bench wants to admit it until opening night, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they had to have at least had a plan.
Yeah.
I would like to think anyway. I don't know, but we'll find out, and it'll be interesting. That's for sure. Just so everyone asking in the chat, this part is live.
Yeah, we
it
live,
is really me and Flex.
Yeah, we
did
live.
have to kick Saul and Gerald out though
basketball?
because they had some other things that they needed to do. But yes, the interview was, of course, pre-recorded. We had plans last week that got derailed because of the whole trade thing, and so it was either pivot or not give you guys what you deserve, and that's conversation is about that trade. But to round it out, Flex, let's take a look at our meter here as far as the Golden State Warriors go and the fear factor we as Suns fans should have towards this. Are we in order of least worried to most worried? Wine Country, the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz, or earthquakes? Where do the Warriors fall on the fear factor meter?
You know what, Linz? This is tough because I want to say Alcatraz.
Okay.
Right? But Steph always proves me wrong. Like that guy, it's earthquakes for me because anytime you go in a 7-game series with Steph Curry and that man can win 2 games by himself, you gotta be fearful of that. So yeah, I'm always gonna go earthquake because those guys earn that. They've done enough. What do you think?
You're gonna go full-blown earthquake?
Full-blown earthquake. They make the playoffs. We match up with them. I'm worried. Always. What are you thinking?
I'm gonna go Alcatraz.
Alcatraz? Okay.
Yeah. I do agree with what you're saying, and I do think that with the Warriors, you always have to have that respect factor there. But I think, I don't know, I'm going to go Alcatraz.
Yeah.
I just think the Suns, I disagree that Warriors in 7.
Yeah.
I think the Suns will win a playoff series against or the Suns will win a playoff series against the Warriors. Yeah.
I mean,
so I'm going to go Alcatraz. I'm not saying it'll be a breeze.
A breeze, right.
But I think the Suns will win.
Yeah, when I say earthquake, it's just that I'm going to lose sleep if we play them.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think they win. Can I ask you something, though? Because I was thinking about this earlier. This might be the last run.
For the Warriors? It very well might be. I mean, listen, at some point in time, Father Time is going to catch up with them. But listen, even when it does, you can't discredit what they've been able to do throughout that dominance of a period of time for them. Like, it's inevitable that Father Time catches up with everybody, but you can never knock what the Warriors were able to accomplish.
Does that worry you? That like they may be going into this season thinking this is our last shot, so they're playing with desperation, and they're like, hey, this might be the last one. Like, this may be the last run of this dynasty because we are getting older, and CP's only got a year, and you know, so the desperation of it is
No,
why
I get that. What do you think is a bigger driver? Desperation, like from the Warriors side of things, or on the Suns side of things, that chip on their shoulder? Devin's never done it. Kevin Durant still gets, well, you only did it with the Warriors. And then Bradley Beal being like, why is everybody just writing me off? So which one do you think is a bigger driver, I guess? The desperation or the chip of being like, I'm going to prove you all wrong?
No, the chip.
So then that's what I would say.
Okay, I got
you. Sure, it does definitely. I could see how that desperation or that kind of like last-ditch effort sort of thing would give them a boost in certain situations. I still think I'm riding with the Suns as far as the chip of proving everybody wrong. Because all three of them have something to prove when it comes to the big three that the Suns have.
I think you nailed it.
So that's what I'm gonna ride with that.
No, you nailed it. That's a great way of putting it. When you win championships, you've tasted it already. So the desperation will be there, but it's not like I've never won.
Yeah.
And the Suns want that.
And I think Devin specifically has a whole lot to prove this year. Just to all the people who continue to doubt him. And I think that's just something that we've seen him every single year.
Yeah.
Somebody will bring it up, like we talked about this a million times. Somebody will bring something up about last season that Devin didn't do well enough. And then the next season he comes in and he does that thing.
Yeah.
And I think he went to the finals, and then the two playoffs after that have not been the outcome that he really wanted.
Not his fault.
No, I don't think it's his fault, but still. And I think he's got a lot that he's just very driven, I think, right now to prove a lot.
I think
of people
KD
wrong.
is too.
Yeah.
Because they think those two chips were because of Golden State, and I argue they got them because of KD.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot there, but it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to say goodbye now. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. with more updates from Suns training camp. If you are here watching live on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button on the way out because it helps us out a lot. If you are listening wherever you get your podcast, rate, review, and subscribe. These are all just easy, free ways to help out the show if you guys like us. And if you're new here, welcome. We're glad to have you here. Hopefully you'll stick around through Sun season because it's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, don't forget to follow the show on Twitter as well at PHNX_Suns. I know Gerald and Saul left, but we'll still tell you guys where you can follow them on Twitter. Saul is at Saul_Bookman. Gerald is at Gerald Bourget. I am at Lindsay Smith AZ, and Flex, of course, is at Flex from Jersey. So give us all a follow. Flex, you want to take us home?
Yeah, I'm kind of thrown off today. So
I know, right?
Yeah, we just going to keep it 100 and just say ahoy, hoy.
Tell the Phoenix Metro, Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsey, Gerald, Espo. Saw past the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the